It's hard for me to say this, but there's a dark side to minimalism that most people don't want to acknowledge or talk about. In the past 7 years, I've decluttered tens of thousands of items on our journey to minimalism, and I can honestly say that it's been one of the best things I've ever done. It gave us the space and peace of mind to put towards things that we actually enjoy doing as a family, as well as helped me heal and let go of 30 years of physical and emotional clutter that I'd been accumulating since childhood. But as much as I love minimalism, I know that whenever something is taken to an extreme, there's a chance that it can become unhealthy. And that's why today I wanted to share 6 ways that minimalism can become toxic. Number 1, hyperfixating on the aesthetic. I literally just saw a viral Reddit post from a man who had decided to divorce his wife, who is an influencer with over 400,000 followers on Instagram. And it got to the point where he felt that her obsession with aesthetics had taken over their entire lives. He was only allowed to buy things in certain color palettes like beige or white, and not being able to enjoy watching his daughter take her first steps because his wife was getting mad at him for putting his glass down on the table and ruining her photos. I feel like this type of highly curated Instagram feed is getting more and more popular, but it's one of those things where it's nice to look at, but for most people, it's not really practical to exist in. What good does it do to have a beautiful home if no one gets to live into it or have fun in it? I think it's important here to differentiate between the minimalist aesthetic and the minimalist lifestyle, because while there can be overlap between the two of these things, it is possible for them to exist without each other. Theoretically, someone could be living a minimalist lifestyle and still enjoy decorating in bold colors and crazy patterns. And I say theoretically because you almost never see this kind of lifestyle on social media. I blame the algorithm. Like, not everyone wants to have their pantry hyper organized in sexy glass containers with handmade labels. Some of us just want to be lazy and put our weird ingredients in random leftover glass jars that don't match. And I feel like that should be 100% okay, but we don't get to see enough of this non-aesthetic representation of minimalism. Give this video a like if you agree with me, and I'd love to hear if you have any non-aesthetic items in your home that you wouldn't get rid of no matter what any minimalist says. My example is this Naruto lunchbox, which is over 15 years old, and since I no longer work in a hospital anymore, I repurposed it into a cute little craft storage container. I look forward to reading your comments. Number 2. Gatekeeping minimalism. Minimalist gatekeepers are weird, y'all. Either people are telling me that I look poor and I should be ashamed to be walking around with holes in my shoes, or they're telling me my house is too big to call myself a minimalist and I should be living in a cardboard box. I once went back and forth with a woman who refused to acknowledge that the age of my clothing mattered at all in terms of minimalism. And please allow me to step up on my invisible soapbox for a second. The age of your clothes absolutely does matter, and the outfit in question that I was wearing was a maternity dress that is over 10 years old. And what I was trying to explain to her was that the longer you own and use something, the less you are contributing to the cycles of consumerism. And one study found that wearing your clothing just 9 months longer than average could reduce the environmental impact by up to 30%. So for me, I always try to extend the lifespan of my clothes by caring for and maintaining them well and making amends to them when I need to, which not only helps me save money, but also reduces my carbon footprint. Anyway, my point is here, there's no right and wrong way to practice minimalism, and you don't have to own less than 100 items, or move into a tiny house, or refuse to own pets or have kids to be considered a real minimalist. Number 3, letting go is hard. I've never said this out loud before. Decluttering gave me nightmares. That was around the time that I hid the really sentimental stuff that had been sitting in boxes for like 10, 20, or even 30 years. And in my dream, I would be in the living room of my old childhood home, and my sick dad was there. And everything looked exactly the same as it did as I remember it when I last stepped in there 20 years ago, except the front door fell off. And no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to get it back into the door frame and get it to stay up, it wouldn't stay. And then everything just started falling apart in slow motion around me. And I would turn to look at my dad, and right as our eyes connected, then I would wake up. I guess it makes sense that decluttering would give me nightmares because my family spent so many years collecting things, holding on to things, wrapping them up and putting them into boxes and stuffing them down out of sight. And when I started unpacking my past, it brought back all of those negative emotions, and it took me a lot of time and mindful effort on my part to overcome the grief, fear, and anxiety I felt while decluttering and letting go. But while that was an important part of my healing journey, it was only one piece of the puzzle that ultimately helped me heal and let go. And that's why I want to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy, and that way BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's through chat or a phone call or a video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. And if your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Right now, you can get 10% off your first month by going to www.betterhelp.com/A-to-Z-life. That's HELP, or you can find my special URL linked in the description box below and click it to join the 3+ million people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. And thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. Number 4, going too extreme too fast. Another minimalism mistake I see a lot of people making is they try to take it too far too fast. And we live in a culture of instant gratification where everyone wants more and bigger and better. And it's weird to think about it this way, but that can apply to decluttering and minimalism as well. And while I think that there are times when it's okay to try to declutter fast, there are some times when you just need to slow down and take your time, particularly when it comes to sentimental items, because once those items are gone, they are gone forever. It's not like something like a blender or a pair of shoes that you can just go out and buy again. Although my experience with decluttering and minimalism was very difficult, it also had a very positive outcome. But just the other day, I ran across an article by a woman who also experienced a loss and had a very similar story to mine, but who had the complete opposite outcome. And I just want to share a particular passage from that with you. The Declutter Blitzkrieg, led by the peaceful mess warrior, left me with a barren, sentimental wasteland. I was devoid of favorite books to escape into, old gifts to comfort me with love from my past, vacation tchotchkes to remind me of the beauty I'd seen, greeting cards with cheesy sentiments I needed to hear now, lace doilies from my dead grandmother crocheted for me that I could touch and feel her DNA, and most importantly, anything from my dad. All because one Sunday, in a thick fog of grief, desperation for a different life, and after drinking too much cheap red wine, none of what I owned sparked joy, but rather sadness. So I Marie Kondoed it all away, completely disregarding that despite these things not necessarily sparking joy, they might spark comfort, security, and coziness when I needed them. And now I needed them. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting so emotional just reading that. So that's why I always caution people to declutter at their own pace and not feel pressured to do too much too fast. And if you want to see more common decluttering mistakes to avoid, go check out this video because I share some of the biggest ones there. Number 5, it's a privilege. We can't talk about the problems with minimalism without touching on privilege and what a privilege it is to not only have enough, but even more than enough. I grew up in an average middle-class family in an average town in the American Midwest. Neither of my parents graduated college. My dad was a landscaper and a firefighter, and my mom worked at a phone company. But our life was still comfortable and abundant to the point that our home overflowed with too much stuff. And even though my life was tough after they passed away, and there were years that I couldn't go to the doctor or the dentist because I couldn't afford health insurance with my minimum wage job, it never got to the point where I was afraid that I might run out of money to pay for food or clothes or safe shelter. Compared to that, my husband experienced the opposite end of the spectrum, growing up poor in a third world country in a home that didn't have electricity, gas, or even running water. And when he talks about his childhood and the times when he remembers that he was only able to have one pair of shoes and socks because they couldn't afford to buy more, or there were days where he would only get one meal to eat, He always says that his family had no other choice but to be minimal, and for them, minimalist living was about survival. So I do think it is important for us to be aware that minimalism isn't always inclusive to people at lower socioeconomic levels or who have disabilities, chronic illnesses that they're living with, or mental health conditions, and how privileged many of us are, particularly in the Western world, to have the choice to live frugally and minimally. Number 6, the comparison trap. So there's this theory in psychology that says that humans come to better know and understand themselves by comparing themselves to other people. We compare our behaviors, our achievements, our attitudes, our beliefs, and our opinions, and everything is fair game. And trust me, minimalists are not immune to the comparisonitis virus either. A while back, I actually had to mute a few minimalist Instagram and YouTube channels because they were making me feel guilty that I still had too much stuff and my home didn't look a certain way. And I am someone who gets accused of being an extreme minimalist on YouTube. So if I feel this way, I can only imagine how other people who are watching these channels feel. Now I've gotten to the point where I rarely find myself comparing my home to other minimalist homes, but one thing that I do tend to feel a little guilty about is that I'm not doing as much as other content creators are, and I catch myself feeling guilty that I'm not able to post 2 videos a week or share Instagram reels every day. But then I just remind myself that what I'm doing is good enough, and if I'm happy with what I'm putting out into the world as a creator and I feel like I'm helping people improve their lives, then that is what matters most, and that's good enough for me. If you've made it this far, I would love it if you would give this video a like and maybe consider going down and hitting that little red subscribe button to subscribe to my channel and join our minimalist family here on YouTube. And if you want more ideas on decluttering and minimalism and how to find the right balance for yourself, make sure to go check out this video, or I'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.